ladies and gentlemen, this is probably one of the most saddest things that, I have to tell you about. It's not even about me. It's not even about, someone else. It's not even about something in my family. But I think this is something definitely worth talking about, and it's definitely something worth reporting on 100%. You see, last night I figured out through a friend that Rec Room once again did another set of layoffs, as if it wasn't enough to already have done a couple layoffs in the start of this year. They went ahead and did it again. You see, Rec Room is one of my most favorite games. It's probably one of my top played games of all time. That being right next to Minecraft, which is one of my other favorite games of all time. And I owe a lot to Rec Room. And I made money, okay? I made money on Rec Room. I made plenty of great friends on Rec Room. And I'm slowly realizing a pattern right now. Rec Room is slowly dying. Because as of today, once again, there has been another set of layoffs again in Rec Room. As of August 2025 report from Cameron Brown of the company news in Rec Room and in a blog on Rec Room. Okay, so this is all straight from official Rec Room, by the way. And I quote, "What's happening? Today, Nick and I had to make one of the most toughest choices in Rec Room history. We're saying goodbye to about half of the Rec Room team. These are incredible people who have poured their talent, heart, and creativity into the company. They shaped our culture, built features loved by millions, and made Rec Room better in so many ways. It's impossible to count. We are heartbroken to see them go. This is a painful day for a lot of people." Now, if you're unaware about the severity of layoffs and what it means for a business, layoffs are really bad. Layoffs are like the worst thing ever. When you're essentially laying off people, you're trying to reshape, rebrand, or maybe, sort some things out with the company. It's not like firing somebody where they did wrong. It's where the company is doing wrong and they need to reassign themselves, just shuffle themselves around. But in a way, whenever you have to lay off workers, you're essentially suffering some loss and you need to make up for that loss by compensating. And that compensation is by laying off people. I know that was kind of a weird way to, describe it, but let me just put it to you that it's just bad to lay off people. They're facing business changes, they're needing Rec Room to thrive again, and they have to do some company changes. Well, sadly, there's a lot of very important people, some people of which that I have even talked to and I have even worked with, not in really directly, not to say that I, have ever worked with Rec Room, straightforward work with Rec Room. I've been, doing things with them. I did events with them. I did, RecCon. I've even talked to people that work in Rec Room that helped us set up these kinds of things. And, they're just genuinely good people. These people are actually honest. Now, I'm not going to say this is Rec Room's fault at all. This is not Rec Room's fault. This is probably them trying to, do a bit of company change. And it's not the people's fault either that got laid off. But what I will say that is at fault here is the way the game is going. So, technically, then again, I just went back to saying that Rec Room is at fault here. So, for those who really don't know about the state of Rec Room right now, it's bad. It's really bad. There's, there's a lot of, trying to get money out of, the game. Their diehard player base is gone. The state of Rec Room is just really, really bad. And who knows what it will look like in about a couple months, let alone even a couple years. It hasn't been that long since they did the last set of layoffs. And now, today, as of August 2025, which is nearly its end, it's another layoff. This happened absolutely out of nowhere. So let's cover another thing. So how did they get here, honestly? How has this happened? Well, for starters, years ago, and I quote, "Years ago, we raised a lot of money to build an enormous vision, a social UGC platform." Remember that as I talk more about this situation, where anyone could create anything on any device. We invested heavily in the creation tools across PC, VR, consoles, and mobile, but the reality has been harsh. The most impactful creation comes entirely from creators on PC using mouse and keyboard in studio. That makes sense because Rec Room is built off the Unity engine, and like essentially Unity is definitely a PC kind of thing. So it might be a little bit harder for people to make on other platforms. While we did see creation happening on mobile and consoles, we never got to the point where those devices were good for building stuff and that other players engaged with. And some of our efforts to bridge that gap, Maker AI, just frustrated our more impactful creators. Well, what do you know? At the same time, those lower powered devices still produce millions of pieces of content. This put a huge strain on the team, who had to figure out tools and procedures to review it all. Making all this run across every device was a massive technical challenge and burden. Our most skilled creators optimized their content cleverly. Most creators couldn't, really, because we didn't provide them with the necessary tooling. Supporting all this scope stretched us way too thin, and our attempt at building one big scalable platform, Rooms 2.0, didn't land like we needed it to. The vision made sense, but we got crushed under the scale. So we ended up in a tough spot, too small to realize that anyone can build anywhere vision, but too big to pivot to a more focused experience that was more reactive to what our players wanted and would pay for. The result was that we started to dig a financial hole that's getting larger every day. So what does this really mean? This is a lot of, business jargon and stuff like that. Well, what this means is that Rec Room has been making moves and making updates and making changes to their games, making these calls that just did not ever land. So as they kept on doing this, they kept on making different kinds of things that, just didn't make them any financial success. They didn't land anywhere. It didn't work for them. They kept on doing too many big things. Those big things became too big for them that they had to pull them back. Now, I don't know whenever, the Rooms 2.0 thing is still in effect. I have no clue about that at all. But they've been trying to make that thing work for so long. And they announced it maybe a year ago. I'm not so sure. 2 years ago is my best guess. Now, genuinely, I think it was a great idea. When I first saw it, I saw it in Retcon. I saw that show. It was amazing. The reality of it was huge. That everywhere like you go, you could see a huge creation, not just one on the constraint of 0 to 100% ink. If you really know what the creation terms is, that's how much you're limited to building in Rec Room, by the way. That was uncapped at that point. And so now they faced a really big problem where some creators were like not really creator savvy and knew how to optimize the thing, essentially breaking their game. And so they had to find a tough choice between keeping what they were doing, which wasn't really helping them in the first place, and pulling back the cord and, stopping whatever's going on, but in the worst way possible. They had to pull back a bunch of people in this process. Now, I'm not one for this at all. I think it's the worst choice ever to lay off a bunch of very, very talented people in an already small company, much of which these kinds of people I appreciate too. There are a lot of people in Rec Room that I really, really, really like. I bid everyone else farewell. It's been a blessing having most of those people in Rec Room, if not all of them. Honestly, this time is very dark for Rec Room. So what's next? We don't know, because it's getting very, very, very hectic. Now, reading deeper into this article, I found something that I like to read, okay? This is something I very much enjoy seeing. Finally seeing that Rec Room is realizing this. Let's take a look at it. So, what's next? Okay, so they said, now what? We remain committed to supporting and building Rec Room to its full potential. Moving forward, we will focus on two things: empowering our very best creators, which is something that has been very important from the beginning, as of, Rec Room being a UGC platform, user-generated content. You should very much cater to your consumers and your users. Ensuring the Rec Room is a great experience for our players. So if you're not a creator, then what else are you doing in Rec Room? Making sure that, matters is huge. So empowering our very best creators. This means less work on broad UGC expansion. Finally, and an already, established system that keeps on growing more and more and more and more. It's very hard to even master the Maker Pen or, Unity or the mobile or controller, Maker AI. It's this ever changing, system that just gets too bloated. Very hard to, sit down and master everything that's came out. Like always changing, adding new chips, adding new systems, adding new programming, adding new, features and such and such. It's getting a lot, and it's overburdening. I can't even master the Maker Pen. I can't even master the creation system at all. More support for our top creators. These folks are driving most of our growth and revenue already. In July, players spent more on UGC content. Creators had their highest earning month ever. This segment is actually growing nicely, but it's heavily focused on PC, so that's where we'll focus our UGC efforts. It makes so much more sense that, the UGC is being, focused on PC. PC is a very, heavy platform. It makes more sense that, you can build on PC. You have more access to more tools, and not only that, but Rec Room Studio, it makes a lot more sense that the PC part matters more. PC and VR make a lot more sense. Rec Room on its own in its creator engine with the Maker Pen, with the in-game creation, just doesn't really land well. The tubing, the modeling with the shapes and stuff that are within the game, they just don't really resonate anymore. They don't hit because there's new technologies that are in this game that, making great stuff. Now, that probably doesn't mean that Maker Pen and stuff like that is going to be shut down. I don't think so, but it does mean that they're probably going to focus more on what is offered on PC, and that is probably Rec Room Studio or the Maker Pen. I don't even know what they're doing. I have no insiders at all. I even worked for a team that used to run in Rec Room. It doesn't even exist anymore. Our connection with Rec Room does not even exist anymore. Here's the big point. More investment, and I'll even highlight it so you can read into it. More investment in what players show us they like and want. This has been huge, by the way. This has been huge. People have been complaining that this game has bugs or is very unoptimized or is, boring in a sense. There's nothing to come back to. There's nothing fulfilling, such as revisiting our Rec Room originals with a view to making them better while turning them into a sustainable business. That kind of worries me, okay? That kind of worries me. Rec Room, and it's on its own. They had their experiences. It's a free-to-play game. Now, does this mean that they're going to pull, maybe RROs to, be paid for? I don't know. That's kind of, a bit weird. But you know what? I wouldn't mind, investing in a game that has great features and great little expansions into the game if it matters and it makes sense and if it is very good. It has to be good. It has to be something, good. We're focusing on the word, and it has to be good. It has to be something sustainable. It has to be something of substance. For example, expect new features, some free, some paid, for paintball in the near term. If the financial model works, we may expand into new ROs. For the past few years, we required ROs to use the UGC tools. This made production costs much higher. Moving forward, we'll do this work directly in Unity. This was a huge thing, okay? They were trying a long time ago to make these kinds of tools, accessible for everybody, every creator, to make something like the caliber of an RRO. It didn't really land well, and it didn't really, shoot off. People made their own things with Rec Room Studio, but it kind of did heighten, the playing field on how much you can do and how much you can create. The Maker Pen and Rec Room's in-game creation engine that is already in there, which is Unity, was kind of limited with how much they had. So Studio kind of rose it up to that VR chat levels of creation. Very, very huge. Although Rec Room being a strictly kids-based platform, kind of, made it into, a little bit of a Roblox situation. There's some very ambitious stuff out there. And then there's some, just lame, boring, probably made in like 20 minutes kind of stuff. Cash grabs, as they call it. And so these kinds of things started arising. I am so happy to have finally seen and heard that they acknowledge that everything that has been going on in the past few years has not been working for them, and that they have slowly realized that the charm that they had back then with making RROs really made people come back. I remember when they announced Make It to Midnight, the Dead by Daylight type game that they had on Rec Room. We immediately flocked and played for it for hours. We played for it for hours. And then we kind of left it because it was kind of boring. Some people, they genuinely liked it. And they grinded out the abilities and stuff like that. And they genuinely, very much so played the game. That is good. That is good. I think more or less the newer stuff now, My Little Monsters was the worst thing they could ever done. A grinding game that was single player, by the way. It was very much single player. Where you walked into the forest and with your monster, you basically just ran around collecting resources, going back, doing a rinse and repeat grind. That was boring. That was very bad, and it was very much a way to make monetary value pop from that game. Like, very much so, they were trying to make money. It was blatantly obvious. And it was terrible. It was very bad. There was probably a lot of people that worked on that game, and I am so sorry, but that just was not it. I'm sorry if you're watching from anywhere in the studio of Rec Room or past tense. That was bad. It was just bad. Let's get back to the main blog. So, ensuring Rec Room has a great experience for our players. This means increased investments in monthly events, fests. Well, now I genuinely feel like the fest things are a great idea. I feel like that is not really what they should be focusing on. Battle passes and making stuff more paid and more cosmetics. I don't agree with that at all. I think that is the worst idea ever to, surface by a landslide. I think, like, if those fests had something, very unique to them, like maybe just maybe this would be a little bit more of a better idea, and it would sit with me better. Fests that ensure Rec Room stays always fresh and gives players concrete reasons to come back regularly and to check out the activities and rewards on offer. You better make sure those rewards are good, by the way, because let's be real, some of those things are just, slop. They're paid for, and it's more of a reason for you to get paid. Like, everybody is slowly realizing that battle passes just do not sit right in games. Being the next game to have a battle pass isn't really a great idea, okay? Or like a seasonal rewards or something like that. It's just not really, the thing, okay? Let's get back into it. Players can expect more featured content from our top creators, less algorithm, and more curated experience tied to the fest. And if we can get these economics to work, increased investments in ROs. I think they're going to try to, make a ton of different changes to what is already not working. And the end goal is probably another RRO. We probably won't see one in the near future. We probably won't even see one this year. It might even be as to the point we might not even see a retcon this year with how badly everything's going. The charm of the team and, this company coming together and, making these kinds of things happen, that was kind of the charm of retcon, like seeing everybody come in and, just genuinely, like, enjoying a shared space, like, a shared space where everybody, even like big top creators came in and, make this like event special. There's not a lot of that anymore. There's a lot of people leaving, and creators and staff members that are like being leaving or being laid off and stuff like that. And that is going to probably impact retcon in a big way. I know retcon was not mentioned at all. I know it was definitely not mentioned at all. So, it's not even in the picture. But that probably won't happen, I would assume. If it did, it's probably a Christmas miracle, okay? And finally, our goal is with our players is simple. Earn back their excitement and engagement with quality rather than quantity. Oh my God, that is an amazing thing to hear, by the way. That is such an amazing thing to hear. Hearing that word, by the way, like they were just pushing out slop after slop after slop after slop, update after update after update, and it wasn't really anything major. There wasn't really anything, just a bunch of bug fixes and maybe a new like feature in creator tools and stuff like that. It didn't really feel like, sustainable. It really didn't feel like there was any substance to it. I think that that is the best thing I have heard from Rec Room in a while. Them forward admitting that they have been, pushing out quantity over quality, while a lot of people will admit that, bugs and stuff are a big deal in Rec Room, or, these creator tools that are just, popping up out of nowhere. That are being put into more like these creators, like it's just so much. It's just so much. It doesn't make any sense anymore. It doesn't make any sense. We want the game to thrive. Sure, you need to introduce more tools for these people to use, but the tools are like coming out so much and such high quantities that it just bloats everything, you know to high hell. That being said, I think it is a very refreshing thing to hear. So in closing, the reality is that what we've been doing these past years wasn't working for the team, the company, and for our players. That's on Nick and me. It's our job to align. This is probably, I believe, Gribbly or Cameron referring. That's our job to align to those needs, and we failed. This change, however imperfect and however shocking, gives a chance to reset. So they're going to pull back the clock in a way. Today sucks from Nick and myself, referring to the layoffs. If you're in the industry, please take a look at our amazing people on our Rift list. They're some of the most talented developers, builders, teammates we've ever worked with. We truly wish we could keep them all. You'd be lucky to have any of them on. That's actually really sweet. That is actually very, very, very sweet. For those leaving, you'll always be a part of the Rec Room story. We thank you for everything. So this is genuinely like a family. This was definitely a very probably close, tight-knit, thing. And so is there anything on the comments? I see no comments about this. I see lots of hearts and likes. And this is very, very sad. There's no comments. I think that is probably a good idea. But this in general is a bad day for Rec Room. Will it get any better? I'm not sure. I hope, honestly, it does. But if it does face a closure, I called it, by the way. I really called it. Not that I'm like, aiming for these people to close down their game. I love this game to death. I just don't play it anymore. I want to see it go better. And I'm not going to invest my time into a product that is not, aimed for me. Now that has shifted, possibly I could see myself going back to this game. Anyways, with that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. This is very heartbreaking news. This probably doesn't mean a lot to most of you because maybe some of you don't play Rec Room, but this means a lot to me. I hope this kind of, was a bit informative to people who did play Rec Room. And if you watch this way through, thank you so much. You know what to do. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, that kind of stuff. And with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. This is going to be a big type of video. These types of videos are going to be big. I have lots of things planned, lots of things going on. Expect a lot of stuff coming up. And thank you for watching. Peace!